What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Boomer and Junior. It's your two favorite knuckleheads. My name's Boomer.
And I am Junior.
Happy summer, everybody, again. And somehow it's hotter in Texas, and I didn't think that was possible. Um, Guys, we've got a little bit of a different episode. We've got our first ever guest. I think we teased that last time. I know. Woo! We've got Sam from College Football Fantasy joining us, or college fantasy football. Totally just botched that.
Had a different
It's
bit of
been
a meaning there.
it's been a long day, folks. I apologize. I apologize to Sam as well. But Sam, we just got to meet him, and he got to give us an overview of his platform and the model that he's put up to kind of replicate fantasy football with the college space. And Zach and I got to take a look at it, and it's pretty darn cool. So having let's get right to it. Let's check out what we had in terms of our conversation with Sam.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, viewers of the Boomer and Junior podcast, we are excited to have our first ever special guest on today's episode. Joining us is Sam, who has created a really cool, new, and exciting form of college fantasy football. Not that NFL stuff you're used to. We're going to the good sports with their college fantasy football, and a new, innovative model that's a bit different from maybe what you previously have heard about. So, Sam, thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us a bit about your fantasy football site and how it works for maybe people hearing about this for the first time?
Yeah, no, thanks for having me. I didn't realize I had the honor of being the first special guest, so no pressure
Yeah.
there. But yeah, so I created College FFB really with the belief that kind of college football deserved its own dedicated fantasy format. So instead of kind of copying and pasting the traditional draft format we know from the NFL, what I did was I created a salary cap format, which means when you sign up for College FFB, you have access to the same player pool as everybody else. Every player in that pool is assigned a price based on their projected output for the season. And you are given a $100 million budget to create and build and kind of transform your team over the course of the season. So the whole idea is that even an average or more casual fan can sign up for an account, create a team of players that they know and watch every Saturday. You don't need to know who the backup running back for Rutgers is to kind of pick this up and enjoy it. But
So
there's
good.
plenty of depth for anyone to come in and use deeper strategies, use that massive player pool, create a team the way they want to. There's a ton of viable options to play college FFB, and we wanted to create a college fantasy game for everybody.
That's awesome. Yeah, sorry for kind of springing that on you that you were our first guest. That just kind of happened. I felt like we're also teasing what we're calling season 2 of the pod because we just finished up a full year and we're going into our second season. But no, that's awesome. Zach told me about your platform a couple weeks ago, and I thought it was I was like, finally something's coming out for college football, which is nice. Um, I understand, like, it's obviously, like, how long have you been running like, side question, like, how long has this been a project of yours? Like, this isn't now I'm just curious, but yeah.
Yeah, no. So I had the idea sometime like late last spring. I
Oh,
probably
cool.
started building it early summer. We had it live, I think, early July of 2025. We got it up
Nice.
to over 570 users in the first season with just kind of word of mouth and Twitter and Reddit posts mainly. And now
Nice.
we're here for season 2. So season 2 of the pod, season 2 of College FFB. I'm glad we
Nice.
can kind of line that up.
Nice. That's awesome.
Stories kind of organically aligned there. That's crazy.
That's pretty cool. No, dude, honor's ours to have you on the pod, man. We've been trying to have folks that are more passionate about college football too, and, like, appreciate you making the time. Something that I was curious about is, like, do roster changes happen similar to the way they do it on, like, the bigger platforms, like your ESPNs, or not to for those listening, please don't sue us, but, like, the ESPNs or the CBSs, right, of, fantasy, like, how do you have it designed where how you change your rosters?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. And that's really where some of the major differences between the NFL and college need to be accounted for. Obviously, the NFL, there's 32 teams, there's a set number of players. Most people who play are well aware of who's in the player pool and who's good and who's generally not going to be touched.
Yeah.
Obviously, sleepers and people come up every single year. But in college, there's, 6,000 skill players in the, power
Yeah.
four to, choose from type of deal. So what we have is a system where you have your initial 100 million budget, you set your roster, and every week moving forward, you get 3 free transfers that you could do. Meaning you have to stay within your overall team budget and value, but every
Okay.
week you could swap out 3 people as long as you remain within your overall team budget. And the idea is so you can't rip up your whole team every single week and target Alabama versus, Samson University type of deal. Um, but it gives you just enough to keep up with bye weeks, injuries, chase the, breakout players, things like that.
I like that
I
too,
like
just because. Sorry, Zach. All I was gonna say was I like that. I feel like with the pro model, and I'm sure you guys can back me up on this, right? You'll go for a star player, week 1 or week 2, they're out, and you're basically cooked on the rest of your season. It sounds like there's a little more wiggle room with that, and you can still somewhat try and recover your season, whereas, like, on the pro model, you're basically done, and
Yeah.
you're gonna spend the next 4 months being, the butt of the jokes of all your buddies, but yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. If you draft Arch Manning week 1 and God forbid, if you're a Texas fan, he tears his ACL, uh,
Oh,
next week you can swap him out as long as it's a player the same or lesser value, like Trinidad Chambliss, Devin Dampier. You have a ton of options that you could budget
yeah.
off of him to a new player.
Sam, you're saying that like Arch is a good quarterback. You're saying that you're saying that like he's a good quarterback.
Look, man, this is
By the
my
way,
first podcast. I don't want to get in trouble on the
for
first podcast
context,
with
for
Texas fans.
context, this podcast is a proud horns down pod. Every time. Sorry, that's all. I don't want to hijack, but yeah, no, funny. That was cool. That was cool.
Nick with his nickname is also Boomer, and his signature thing is his Boomer's bold takes. So that's
Boomer's Bowl takes.
you're gonna
Boomer's
get
Bowl
some fire
takes.
and feistiness like that here and there for sure.
God, I can't wait for the fall, you guys. You have no idea. But yeah,
Yeah. Getting back to the site a bit more, you're talking about assembling this team and the player salaries and stuff like that. How is that you're determining the player value and like kind of like what sources are you using? Like what's going into that kind of setting that value, and then how does that change throughout the season?
Yeah, so that's always the most fun part for me every year, kind of creating these player values. There's pretty widely varying opinions of which players are going to be best for college fantasy football every year. So what I did, I tried to take all the major sites that support some level of college fantasy football, look at the average ADPs, look at their average rankings. I kind of combined that with my own personal opinions that's injected into the game, but hey, it's
okay.
my game. I could do what I want with it type of deal. So
Very mumuch so. Very much so.
It's a
Yeah,
good benefit, yeah.
that's awesome. That's so good.
yeah, and really, it's I base it more. It's a kind of combo of ADP and projected points.
Okay.
Part of the reason I use ADP and not just projected points is I want to create excitement and value around players that might not necessarily get the same spotlight as Arch Manning. A good example is Connor, Wegman of Houston. He's
Yeah,
projected to score a similar number of points, but he's far less popular and at a lower price point. I'm hoping that this drives excitement and engagement around other names in college that, maybe your more average or casual fan wouldn't know of before they play.
that's awesome.
That's a cool feature. I noticed just within my own stuff when I was setting my team, because I created an account and started building a team already. There, I had to pick between which Michigan State players I thought were like the best sleeper value picks, and I was only able to pick two because that's the limit per team for your roster, which is understandable. I was like, oh man, like I could see like our quarterback really shooting up, even though he's like this lower price and stuff. So I like that to kind of spread it around a bit.
Yeah, no, the whole idea was a big issue with college fantasy football is, the cupcake matchups, right? Where Alabama, LSU, Ohio State scores 70 points against some like FCS school. And it creates this huge opportunity where people try to rush in, they load up their entire roster with Ohio State players. It creates this very uneven spread of points. So to make it more of a game where you have to call your shots with those matchups, not just target every single easy matchup every week, we're limited to 2 players from each school that you could have on your roster at any given time. And again, you only have those 3 transfers per week. So you do have to be strategic about who you pick and kind of like your long-term vision for the team too.
Okay.
Gotcha.
No, man, that's awesome. Um, that I still have to go make my own account. I'm not gonna lie, I am behind. Um, it's but I'm still very excited to do this, and I think sidebar, can you create a league? Can you create like your own sub league with friends?
Yeah. No, of
Okay.
course. So there's a couple things. When you sign up, you pick your favorite team, and that does a couple things. That drops you into global leaderboards. You're competing against everybody else that's playing college FFB. It
Okay.
also drops you in a conference-wide and team-wide mini league. But
Okay.
on
All right.
top of that, you also could create your own mini leagues. So I would love to get the Boomer Junior Podcast League out there. Let's try to get some of your fans involved. Um, I'd be
Okay.
curious to see how many, people that follow you guys would want to play.
I mean,
Yeah, no,
Zach and
I
I.
was saying the same exact thing of wanting to create a boomer junior league in
Yeah.
there. This sounds right up the alley. I'm gonna shout out Erica's uncle or my girlfriend Erica. Sorry, I refer to our friends and stuff by name and stuff sometimes on the pod. Her uncle Marvis, I know, is gonna be a big fan of this for sure. So definitely getting him on it at least. And I know we got some other folks we'll get on that
We also
community
just
for
like
sure.
all the guys from back in our undergrad too. Like we went to a pretty crappy football school, but we're all pretty passionate about college football as a whole. Nonetheless, there probably is going to be some traction on that. Hey, one quick question for me: if you had to pick one feature that you're most proud of on the platform, what would you go with?
It's actually one I launched last week. No one asked
Oh,
for it. I just woke up in the middle of the night. I had this idea. I wrote it down in my notepad, and then the next morning, I think I started coding at 5 a.m. all the way to like midnight.
okay.
I just released a feature called Campus Clash. Again, a big part of college versus NFL is the fan bases
Rivalries.
are more tribal. The rivalries are great. Like everyone loves their own team, and fantasy doesn't really capture that team element whatsoever. But with the format that we set up, so basically you create your team, you score points every week, and you're in your team mini league, right? What I did was I built a game on top of that. Doesn't require any extra effort on your part, but basically every single week we take the top 5 scores from every fan base. We sum that up.
Oh,
So if you guys are all, Michigan State fans, or I'm not sure if Uncle Marvis is a Michigan State fan as well, but we would take those top 5 scores, and that would be Michigan State's score for the week. And we've done two
oh,
things with that. We've created basically a fantasy fan base AP poll where every week we'll see how the fan bases move up and down based on
I
top
love that.
users' performance. And we have a dedicated rivalry tab. So you could make sure you guys are beating your biggest rivals every single week in more of a head to head competition.
That's sick.
Ohio State, Michigan, Oklahoma, Texas. We get all the big rivalries in there. And, we're hoping that's what gets some fans excited. Even if you don't win every week, at least you have a chance to beat your biggest rivals.
Not bad.
That is awesome. I dig that
Yeah.
big time. So, even if our school's teams aren't very good with Purdue and Michigan State kind of being some of our main interests, that's or at least be
Hey,
able to show off our ball knowledge and stuff in the rankings there on
I
Campus
like that.
Clash.
I like that. That's pretty unique. I like that you were able to bring that feature in too, because I feel like rivalries are such a big part of college football, man. Like Red River Week down here in Texas, is like next level. So that's pretty cool. Hey, one last quick question from me. Where can people sign up and where can they get information? And this actually
Yeah.
applies well to me considering I've not signed up yet. But yes.
Yeah, right now it's just on collegeffb.com. It's fully mobily responsive and a progressive web app. I have the iOS and Google apps. They will be live before the season starts here, hopefully
Oh,
Oh,
even
awesome.
before like the end of the month. But that is coming quickly. But right now, collegeffb.com is where you go to sign up and play.
sweet. That's awesome.
Getting that as an app is going to be awesome. It's a very sleek interface for the folks who are going to go sign up. We'll see. It's a very sleek interface. I'm very impressed with what you've been able to do already with that. I'm excited to see the app version as well.
Yeah,
Um,
anything's
and then
possible when
one
you give
more.
up enough sleep.
There you go. That's the mentality
That's
right there.
funny.
Yeah. And then we got one more question for you before we let you go. And that's for informing our teams and maybe our listeners getting a little snapshot in there and some
True.
insider info. Who's your big sleeper pick for this year? Who's like a good like bang for your buck guy that you would point to of like, hey, you should include this guy on your roster?
Yeah.
So I've got two answers for you. So one, I just released my full QB rankings for the year, so my mind kind of goes there first. I don't know if he's a deep sleeper, but I love Alonzo Barnett from UCF for 8 million. I don't,
Oh,
I don't know if you guys watched James Madison too much last year, but the guy rushed for like 15 touchdowns and was like an absolute
yes.
stud. I don't think the Big 12 is going to be that huge of a leap where he can't produce something similar. So I love his value at 8 million when a guy like Arch Manning is 14 million. I think there's a lot of value there. And if you want a deeper sleeper, someone for your bench, I really like Mylan Graham from Notre Dame. He's 4.5 million, which is the cheapest price point in the game. But now we're hearing Quincy Porter for Notre Dame might be out to start the year. There's a lot of news coming out of camp that Mylan Graham has a great connection with Carr. I think he could be one of like those sleeper stud receivers by the end of the year.
I can see it. I could see it. Not to tout my Irish, but I could see it. No, that question actually was for me because I'm like, selfishly, if I get started on this platform, I want insider information. But I didn't hear that from you. So that's awesome. Zach, you want to wrap this up?
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on, Sam. Really appreciate it. Like you said, collegeffb.com. Make sure you check that out. He's on some social media and stuff as well too, so check that out. Yeah, thank you so much for joining us, Sam. We really appreciate it.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me, guys. It was great talking to you both.
Oh boy, that was a fun conversation from Sam, wasn't it, Zach?
Yes, it was. I'm hyped.
No,
I'm hyped about this site.
that was such a fun time. Sam, the first thing I said to Zach after we got done talking to him was, "This guy knows ball," and he knows ball and he appreciates it to the level that Zach and I appreciate it, and if not more. And so, game respects game. Sam, that was an absolute pleasure, man. We are very excited to see you back on the podcast again in the future. Having said that, guys, we're back in our conference overview sessions or lead ups to the season, and we're ramping up the intensity. Obviously, covered Group of 5 last week, but this week we're stepping it up a notch. We're going to historically a conference that had quite the power, but as of late has fallen off onto hard times, one might say. Guys, we're looking at the Pac-12, a very, very different Pac-12 for 26-27. Zach, what do you got to say?
Like a phoenix, the Pac-12 crumbled into ashes as the other teams departed. And like a phoenix, it rises, the Conference of Champions anew. The Pac is back, baby. The Pac is back. Pac-12 after dark, crazy late action. I'm so hyped, Nick. I cannot describe how hyped I am about this.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's cool to see them back. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. Didn't think they were gonna survive it. It was weird.
I didn't either. I really did not. I thought Oregon State and Washington State were going to merge into the Mountain West and the Pac was going to forever fade into history. But alas, our two teams, Washington State and Oregon State, after 2 years as just the Pac-2, are back to a full football conference. Just to recap the realignment there, we had USC, UCLA, Oregon, and Washington leave for the Big Ten. Colorado, Utah, Arizona, and Arizona State go to the Big 12. And Stanford and Cal, we're in the Bay Area in California, go to the Atlantic Coastal Conference.
Dude,
Make it make sense, Nick.
I just remember, yeah. All I'm gonna say is like I just remember us being. I've talked about this, but like I remember us being undergrad, hearing about all these realignments go down, and I heard about that. I had my own thoughts on the Midwest, like Big Ten schools playing out in Los Angeles and Washington, but like why are Bay Area schools playing on the Atlantic coast? Like, tell me how that makes sense. Anyway, sorry. I'm still not over it. Like, if I'm being
no,
honest
I'm as dumbfounded as you are, Nick.
Yep, here we are.
100%, yeah.
Here we are.
But alas, like we said, they are the Pac-2 no longer. They're up to 8 football members of the conference now. Those incoming schools, mostly from the Mountain West, those include Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State, and Utah State. And then coming in from Sun Belt, Fun Belt, we got Texas State joining the conference. So, without further ado, let's get into our preview of each team. And the first one is a doozy, a team that has been dominant in the Mountain West before coming over here to the Pac-12, and that's Boise State.
All right, Zachary, what do you got to say?
Yeah, so I guess a couple main storylines here. Can Boise State continue to dominate the way they have been? They've been running the Mountain West the last few years and really for most of the time they've been in there. They won the conference 3 seasons straight just now. Also went to the college football playoff a couple seasons ago. And in their time this century, they have won 16 conference championships in the 26 possible seasons for the
Yeah,
century.
man.
Let that sink in. That's across 3 conferences. It's not all in the Mountain West, so it was in lower conferences. But still, very impressive, very dominant. Can they do it in what is going to be the toughest competition they've had yet?
I don't know, man. I think this is gonna be good for them. I think it helps sort of like this is gonna be their big test, right? Are they actual big dogs that and have been playing in a smaller conference, or are they just gonna sink? Now, is the Pac-12 a big conference anymore? I don't know. We're gonna find out this year, like what kind of dogs come out of there. There's some unique dogs going into this conference. They got opening weekend. They got a test at Oregon. Um, I mean, that's not an easy team to start off your season with, let alone starting off a new story with the conference, man. Um, at Oregon is, I mean, especially after the team that went into the playoffs this past year and have made, were they, number one going into the playoffs this past year or the year before that? I keep
The
forgetting,
year before that.
but you're seeing the caliber of what you're dealing with, right? And
Mhm.
so, in the series all time, surprisingly, Boise State does lead 3-1. Um, and their closest win, or the most recent one, and their only W for Oregon was a really small margin of like 37-34 in 2024. Quick players to talk through, honestly, that I think will help bolster Boise State. Maddox Madsen, very cool name, by the way, mind you. Uh, Solid proven talent, man. Really plays best out of play action. Um, and I mean, can Boise State win in the trenches really help enable that run game for him to open, and also just at the end of it open things up for the offense. Time will tell.
Mhm.
I think it's going to be a unique combo for a team like Boise State that usually leans a ton on like their running backs, but we'll see. And backfield, Dylan Riley and Sire Gaines. Sire Gaines, all name team. Um, Riley's got 195 carries, 1,100 or so yards, and 12 total touchdowns so far. And yeah, I mean, Gaines has 161 carries, 811 yards, and 9 total tutties. These are 2 insane backs that are going to go like it's giving Jeremiah Love and Darren Price, if one might
Yeah.
say. But just uh, if they're the target, this might I'm about to take a real bold take with this, but they're like the Walmart version of them. That's I feel like that's not right. I feel like Jeremiah and Jadarian the Whole Foods, and we'll call these guys the target. But
I like that.
what I'm getting at is both these guys are looking for big years ahead, and we'll see what pans out. Zach, final
Yeah, I
thoughts
mean, I'm
before we
gonna
move
be
on?
terrified. Yeah, I'm gonna be terrified of anybody named Sire Gaines. That is
Yeah,
a dude who
insane.
was given like a birthright to run the football down the A gap and just dominate.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
it's giving I'm gonna run through a wall and not worry about CTE. That's what it's giving.
yeah, absolutely.
Um,
Yeah. Boise State should be strong in the trenches. I think that'll be good for opening up the running game for them and then protecting Madsen at the quarterback position. Uh, yeah, Boise State's looking really strong. Uh, we'll talk a little bit more about them later, I think, in terms of season outlook of who might be winning this conference. Not to tease too much. We'll go ahead and move on then to another new member coming in from the Mountain West, and that's Colorado State. Colorado State new head coach as Jim Mora comes over from UConn, where he'd been for a bit. And he's hoping to bring back culture and discipline to a team that went just 2-10 last year. Colorado State's had some decent years
yeah,
over the last like decade or so, but last year was not one of them. So we'll
abysmal.
see if he can bring him back. He seems really dedicated to this. He has a 5-year deal right now, and he said that Colorado State is quote his last stop he wants to be at coaching. So that's encouraging if you're a Rams fan.
Okay.
And with that head coaching change comes some major roster turnover. About 70%, 75% of the roster was overturned from last season to this season, which is pretty unprecedented, even in today's crazy transfer portal era. So that's pretty crazy. A lot of those players coming in from UConn, where Morrow was at, and then also Oklahoma State had a lot of departures. So we'll see how those guys shape up.
Let's talk players, guys. All right, I'm apologizing to people in advance because we got two guys' names that I'm most likely going to botch, and I'm apologizing. This first dude's name, his last name's Heine, for crying out loud. We got quarterback Haas Heine, or that's at least
That
what
was
I'm
actually
thinking.
really close. It's Haas Haney, I believe, is what I
Heine.
heard. I've been listening to some Pac-12 podcasts to get some names and
Hey,
stuff.
Heine sounds funnier to me, and I'm sorry about that. But former four-star recruit, heavily, formerly of TCU and OK State. He had limited games as a freshman, only about 4. Started the game, started first game last season, but broke his foot and sat out the rest of the year. Um, he's a dual threat talent that was heavily touted. And honestly, like probably could help elevate last year's 2-10 squad. He's definitely going to help improve. The question is how much. Uh, and linebacker Umar Diomande, that's actually a fun name. UConn transfer coming in with his old head coach. Going to be able to add some serious defensive anchoring to that D line, and also just helping obviously work in a familiar system for him already.
Mhm.
Hopefully this is a reset for the program, man. Famously saw Colorado State beat Coach Prime's Colorado a couple of seasons ago. Loved to see that. We'll see what these guys do.
Absolutely. Then we'll go on over to the Central Valley in California. We got Fresno State Bulldogs. Shout out Erica's sister, Fresno State. Not quite alum yet. She's got like a semester left, but shout
Right
out
on.
Erica's sister. Going to school there.
Shout out.
Fresno State, it got to be, the more and more I'm reading and hearing about them and stuff, Fresno State seems like a really intimidating and tough team to play. I'm not saying that they would beat Ohio State head to head, but this seems like a really feisty team that'd be difficult to put up with. And a
Okay.
lot of that is because of this stout defense that they have returning. Last year, they were top 10 in yards allowed per game and number 16 in points allowed per game
Mm.
defensively. Pretty impressive, even if it is going against some schools in the Mountain West at that point. Still a very impressive number to put up. And we'll see if Nick Benedetto, that I might have botched, the
I
defensive
think you
coordinator
nailed
for
it.
Fresno State, if he can maintain success with this more intense schedule.
Zach, you
And
want the
then
schedule?
Yeah, and then they have a crazy non-conference schedule slate as well, relatively speaking. We got at USC. That's the first game for
Huge.
any Pac-12, any of the new Pac-12 schools in the Pac-12. So they'll be playing at USC like Friday, September 5th, I think is the date. And then they'll play at home against Sac State, who just moved up from FCS to FBS. And then they'll play
Oh
at
yeah.
San Jose State, nearby in California. And then they'll play home against Rice as well. Pretty wicked lineup right there, if you're asking me.
Yeah.
We'll see if they can handle between this non-conference and the strengthened conference play that they're in, if their team can live up to playing one of the hardest schedules they've had in program history.
Dude, all I'm gonna say about this is I'm noticing a pattern where the Pac-12 is scheduling a lot of opening games against teams that were in the Pac-12.
Mhm.
Hear me out, dude. All I'm gonna say is I'm actually gonna be rooting for the underdogs in these games. All right, like for 2 reasons. One, don't like USC. No offense to my buddy Jack if he happens to stumble upon this, but also Oregon. I mean, no alliances to them, right? So I think it'd be cool to see a small dog team go up against Goliath and win. And so very excited for that. Let's talk some players, guys. There's gonna be a QB battle over at Fresno State. You got Christian Martin who's a Maryland transfer. Very experienced, but he's still new to the system. Jaden Mondal is the second guy. He's a local kid from Clovis that was already with the program. He's a younger guy, familiar with the system. Um, and I think the thing that these guys both have going for them is they're mobile dudes. Something I've got a feeling the way teams are moving lately in college football, it's pretty evident you want a quarterback that can do both. Um, like the days of Aidan O'Connell just being a gunslinger I fear are well behind us. And so you're gonna want to have a guy that can throw the pigskin, but also still be agile on his feet. Another guy I quickly shout out on this team for Fresno State is cornerback Simeon Harris. He's actually a first team Pac-12 preseason selection. I mean, you gotta look out for this guy when he hits the ground this year on the defense. But Fresno State, we'll see what you got,
You are not going to want to get caught on Simeon Harris Island, that's for sure, because you are going to be
dude.
stranded.
Yeah, no,
That
thank you.
that much is for sure.
No, thank
Moving
you.
on to another team. This team holdover from the original Pac-12. Well, Pac-12 pre this shift, and that's Oregon State, who has a new head coach, Jamarcus Shepard, who is the Alabama co-offensive coordinator, coming in as his first head coaching job for this season. I remember I was at Erica's family's house when this news broke because they've got some Oregon State ties,
Oh,
and so
cool.
I was like, oh dang, that's cool to see. Seemed like a good hire and stuff. We'll see if he
Okay.
can bring back some of the juices that they had under Jonathan Smith. He had some kind of fun offensive schemes and stuff going there, offensive guru. And I'm curious to see if this Alabama co-offensive coordinator can bring some of that spark back and breathe some life into the Beaver offense.
All I'm
And
gonna say
then,
is, man, like
oh,
I had a good impression of Jonathan Smith from Oregon State before he went to MSU, and that didn't work out. But like, uh, hopefully this is. I mean, I've historically loved watching Oregon State and Washington State for that matter. But hopefully these guys, like this team under him, can bring something new and some passion back to the program.
it's not official yet, but there's a good chance I will end up in Corvallis for the Oregon State Washington State game this year, which I am
Shut up! No
very
way.
excited about. I think that'd be a very sick game to see. So,
Very cool.
uh,
Love that.
yeah. And like we've said with some of these other squads as well, tough non-conference schedule, tough
Yeesh.
schedule in general. They're going to be opening at Houston. So, Houston in the Big 12. Big 12 is maybe one of the weaker Power 4 conferences. Houston maybe a weaker team within that conference. Maybe a shot for Oregon State to win. However, it is also going to be at Houston. It is hot and humid as all get up there. That is far from a guaranteed win for sure. I think it'll be an interesting matchup and good early season test for them, though, before they get brutalized then shortly thereafter when they host Texas Tech. Granted, Texas Tech doesn't have Brendan Sorsby, but with the millions upon millions of dollars they have flowing into the NIL, they're gonna have a really stout defense, and I have a feeling that's going to be a pretty rough showing for the
I think
Beavers.
they're gonna be. Yeah.
Not in due part to their fault. Yeah.
I think Texas Tech's gonna handle business unless there's just a miracle on the side of Oregon State, man. Let's talk about players for Oregon State. All right, this first guy, I thought I recognized his name, and I'm not gonna lie, I'm extremely excited about how this one's gonna play out. Transfer quarterback Malik Murphy. That's right. That's Texas and Duke former quarterback Malik Murphy, the guy that sat right behind Arch, I believe. He actually, I think, came in with Arch at Texas, and the whole reason why he transferred is because he like knew off the bat that he was never gonna have a shot. I thought he'd do decent at Duke, but I guess he didn't. He's dynamic, but I think his biggest issue is consistency on the ground. Like 1 minute during the game, he's the most concrete looking quarterback out there, but the next he's fumbling the ball left and right. Um, yeah, I think that's always been his Achilles heel, and so to see, let's see what he does in like what I'm gonna assume is his second year fully starting. Um, let's talk about Aiden Sullivan, linebacker for the Beavers. First team Pac-12 preseason, similar to Simeon Harris. Um, similar situation, right? They're gonna look for anchors in their defense. Lots of roster turnover, and so they're gonna want some guys that can hold it down really. And I think Aiden could be that guy that they're looking for, quite frankly.
Yeah, he seems like he's going to be an absolute dog in the Pac-12,
Mhm.
and he's going to be living in a lot of their fellow conference opponents' quarterbacks' nightmares. That's for sure.
For sure, man.
Yeah. Moving down my direction to San Diego, another new team to the conference, the San Diego State Aztecs. Super excited to see them become a
The
member of this conference.
Aztecs.
Uh, big question for them is what are they going to do now that they finally got to join the Pac-12? They've been trying to for years now. That was something that people thought maybe would have been something to kind of help encourage USC and UCLA to stay, was if they added a couple more members, like a Boise State, for example, San Diego State, some established brands for both football and basketball. Alas, they didn't do it. The Pac-12 was really snobby then. We're back though, reformed, vibes are high. We're excited. And I'm super excited to see what the Aztecs are able to do in this new conference. And additionally, on top of that, San Diego State had a really good defense last year. And we'll be seeing how they're able to rebuild that defense. That's going to be another big thing to watch. They had two guys move on to NFL, those being Chris Johnson and Trey White from that defense. And so they were able to hit the portal a bit, having some guys coming up and everything. And we'll see if they're able to rebuild and reload that defense to have the same success.
Dude, STSU's always been a school that I've kept an eye on. They're a fun team. They're always like creating some sort of ruckus, and I feel like it's unfair that are only just getting into the Pac-12. It's a little unfair. Um, let's talk about players, guys. We got a few that we're gonna look at just specifically for SDSU this upcoming year. All Pac-12 running back, Lucky Sutton, gonna be coming out for the Aztecs, and I feel like this dude could make an impact in the Pac-12, especially this new redesigned Pac-12. Um, is SDSU running team? Don't know, but I think time will tell. And also linebacker Tano Latuli, also fun name. Pac-12 first team, big returning defensive starter. We've been talking talking a lot about defensive anchors for teams, and it sounds like a lot of these teams that are now joining, whether they have new head coaches or not, it's pretty evident that having a solid linebacker line is game changing. And so we'll see what Latuli does. He might be I think he's definitely going to be the guy for them.
Absolutely. Yeah, Lucky Sutton, crazy name right there. Diabolical. He's got like a next level like burst to him and stuff as well. I think it's really exciting to watch him play and really fun. Gonna be making the team pretty entertaining to watch.
Yeah, man.
Moving on to the new member that was not from Mountain West, that being Texas State from Sunbelt Funbelt. Got to say that every time.
Yeah, good old
Yeah,
San Marcos, Texas. Good old San Marcos, Texas. Go on.
Yes, sir, they are. What part of Texas is that? Is that? I'm assuming that's
That is
nowhere
an
near you. Okay.
hour south of Austin. Um,
Okay.
I have very fond memories of San Marcos. Actually, I'm probably gonna sound like a crazy person, but I had a friend that went there. Very, very special time. Love San Marcos to visit. Fun little college town. Very happy for the team, honestly. I'm glad they're getting some recognition.
Oh, nice. It's exciting. I know Michigan State had a transfer defensive back, Josh Eaton, I believe, who was from Texas State
Oh,
last season, and he was pretty good. So, we'll see if Texas State's got that dog in them and gonna have
find
that high
out.
level talent in the new Pac-12. Because yeah, they are in that new conference of the Pac-12, but they've got the same steady head coach there. Uh, GJ Kinn, entering his fourth year with the program, is the program's only coach with a winning record and bowl trips in all 3 seasons, like in his
Pretty
first
cool.
3 years in school history. That's some pretty high level stuff right there, and pretty exciting. Exciting to see for what's going on there in San Marcos. So we'll see what they're able to do now that they've finally been able to get into a conference, elevating their game a bit more. And see if
Yeah.
they're able to step it up, even with having to travel to some other spots like San Diego, Corvallis, Boise, kind of different adverse conditions. And then on top of that, they've got a lot of guys returning on offense that are going to be really exciting to watch. I won't dive in too much because I think Nick's got these guys listed down as some
Yeah.
impact players. But yeah, going to be a fun team to watch for sure.
Yeah. Let's talk through players, guys. Let's talk about Brad Jackson, returning starter. He's supposed to be the guy behind this fun and exciting offense. I'm curious to see how he reacts to some big name competition. Him and wide receiver Bo Sparks really are, sort of like returning stars on the team, and so curious to see how that plays out in this new year and new format. Um, CFN predicts the Bobcats to be sort of like at the top of the new Pac-12 in year one. Predicting sort of a 5-7 year, shot at a bowl potentially, but tough road. it's gonna be a tough road to get there. And also, second set of guys to call out: wide receiver Bo Sparks, like I talked about, but also Chris Don Jr. Both are proven returning pass catch guys, and so can they support Jackson on that offense? We'll find out. But I mean, very excited for the Texas State. Very excited to see this offense kind of get unleashed this year. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, I've been hearing a lot about these receivers, Bo Sparks in particular, but both these guys are going to be absolute studs. Like I said, it's going to be a really fun and exciting team to watch. I think Bo Sparks might be generating some sparks on the football field this year on the
shout
gridiron.
out. That's that's
All
funny.
right, moving on to our final new member added on. That's the Utah State Aggies.
Yeah.
Why they're the Aggies, I'm not sure. They probably got a
Oh yeah, I
history
heard
like
about
Michigan
that.
State. Michigan State used to be the like it was used to be Michigan Agricultural College. They were the Aggies for a bit before becoming the Spartans, but like they did drop the Aggie name though eventually. I don't know. It is
I
what
don't
it
know that.
is. Yeah, but they're excited though to be in the Pac-12. It's gonna be year 2 under head coach Rocco Mendenhall. Electric name, by the way, I might add.
Very cool.
He inherited a 4-8 team and got them to a 6-7 record last
No,
year in year 1. Nick, you wrote 6-7. What was I gonna do? What was I gonna do? I
no.
it was instinct. But no, this would be exciting. Utah State's been fun. You know, they had Jordan Love there. That
That's
might have been like a
true.
decade ago now. But they had some fun guys come through. They played at Michigan State one year. I think that might have been a Jordan Love year about a decade ago.
Get out,
But they
man.
kept it like really close, and they were really exciting to watch. I think they're going to be another really nice addition to this conference.
Yeah.
They've got 41 new total players coming into this roster, including 19 Power 4 transfers. So pretty strong, bolstered roster. And with that set of Power 4 transfers you got coming in, they're going to be getting coached. We got Robert Anai. Do not know if I said that name right, but he's taking over as offensive coordinator, formerly of BYU, Virginia, NC State. Some teams with some fun offenses going on over the last few years here. And then also got McKay Hillstead. He's a quarterback who was in the starting quarterback after the spring season. He's a BYU transfer, familiar face for an eye. And he'll be replacing the dual threat quarterback, Bryson Barnes. Super excited to see what they do there on offense.
Yeah, lots of changes at Utah State. Very excited that this team is finally like earned a spot in the Pac-12. Let me call something out real quick. They got 41 newcomers, but to me that don't mean jack bleep. Purdue was allegedly like the leading number of transfers in last year, and that was supposed to rock, in all of CFP, and then like that didn't do anything. And so don't look at that number and think that's going to do anything. Like, also crazy thing, Jordan Love played there like almost a decade ago, which makes me feel old. Guys, some key guys to look out on Utah State. We've got quarterback McKay Hillstead. He set Utah State's freshman passing record back in 2023. Now he's returning to Nay's offense. He's going to have some time, obviously, built underneath him, some experience that he's gained. Hopefully, he's going to try and tap into that freshman year, sort of like to get back to those like passing, routines and stuff. We'll see how that happens. Big rebuild for these guys, though. It's happening on the defense and the receiver core. Two very big departments. Leading receiver Braden Piggin left for a rival Utah. Pretty nasty stuff. That's like someone leaving from Michigan to go to Michigan State, or the other way around. And so,
Which does happen because this era of college football sucks.
it sucks. But no, lots of rebuild around two key positions. And I think specifically, at the receiver, like sort of like section, like what are they going to do? And so it's going to be interesting to see what guys step up this next year. Very excited for the Aggies, man, even though I don't feel right calling them the Aggies.
Absolutely. Yeah. Quarterback McKay Hillstead. Be excited to see if he can keep slinging the ball this year. He's operating like a boomerang going out and coming back. We'll see if he can throw a football a new way, like he metaphorically throws a boomerang there.
Insert, but that's
You know,
fine.
I had to do it to him, Nick. Yeah.
Insert, but
And that'll bring us to our final football member of the conference. Just to be clear, we keep alluding to that. Gonzaga also joined as a basketball-only member, but we'll get into that more as we get closer to basketball season. But for football, not a new addition. They're here. They've been here. They staying out here. That's the Washington State Cougars, baby.
Cougars.
Home of producing a lot of crazy quarterback talents like John Mateer, Cam Ward, Gardner Minshew. Those are just ones coming off the top of my head that have been there. Of like fairly recent years too.
Yeah.
Exciting to see what they do this season. They do have another coaching change. Jimmy Rogers lasted just one season before bolting for Iowa State. That was a bit of that whole weird realignment stuff of Penn State just not being able to get anybody to take their head coaching job for a while, and then you're taking Matt Campbell from Iowa State, and then leading on to more realignment, decimating Washington State there. You took a chunk of the roster with him too, but there's some exciting stuff though here at Washington State. We'll see with Kirby Moore now leading the charge there at head coach. We'll see if you can restore that offense. The house that Mike Leach built, coaching the air raid there.
Rest in peace.
Rest in
Rest
peace.
in peace.
Rest in peace. Yeah.
Let me touch on some things real quick. Take the mic. We got a QB battle that's brewing in Washington State. Also, just a brutal opener for the guys, man. There's a three-way competition at the at literally the QB spot. UC Davis transfer, Caden Pinnock, Owen Eshelman, Julian Duggar. By the way, Duggar is a very cool name. Very cool. We always love to see QB battles, but it's like, my pick honestly is Caden Pinnock to be the starter. The season opens with the earliest Apple Cup ever on the road in Seattle against Washington before heading down to Kansas State. Very early in the year. I don't know how I feel about rivalry games happening that early on. But alas, they're not in the same conference anymore. We get it. Let's talk about players real quick, guys. I mentioned his name, but Cade Pinnock, he's currently the favorite at the QB slot. He's dual threat. Led UC Davis to a 9-4 season and an FCS playoff quarterfinal. All right, this dude's got some talent. Another guy to look at, in addition, that's going to hopefully support Pinnock, on the offense, is running back Kirby Voorhees. I'm assuming that's a Dutch name, but he's returning leading rusher behind a veteran O-line anchored by left tackle Ashton Tripp, man. This is going to be an offensive heavy team, and I think this is going to be a team that's hungry to win, hungry to make a name for themselves, hungry to be the team that wasn't left behind in the Pac-12. And so they're going to have guys that are going to fight for the brand, fight for the name, and fight for school pride, honestly. And a little bit of their own pride. And so very excited to see what these guys do. I don't know if they're going to go 9-4 like they did last year for Pinnock, but we'll see. I'm predicting these guys to be like a solid bowl game team. But yeah, it's going to be a fun one for Washington State.
Nick, I don't know about you. I've never met anybody in my life named Kirby, and Washington State's football program alone has two guys that we just mentioned here. Maybe they have more. Maybe they're full of Kirbys on that team. That's pretty crazy, if you ask me.
Yeah, it seems like a southern heavy name, and to see that up in Washington is very much throwing me off. I only think of Kirby Smart, and so I associate Georgia with that name, but not Washington. But double trouble, man. Double trouble up there.
Absolutely. And then to wrap things up, Nick, who's your prediction? Who do you think is going to be winning this conference this season? The first year of the new Pac-12.
Oh, dude. This one's unique, man. I feel like there's a lot of volatility that also doesn't help us in picking a team. Having said that, I'll cut the BS. All right. One pick going now. I'm going Washington State. Just talked about this team. I think literally having a new head coach and a new mentality, especially in a conference that they are still part of, plus with new offensive firepower like Pinnock, dude, they got to be favorites, man. Come on. What about you, Zach? What do you think?
I'm thinking Boise State is the most likely team. They're going to be pretty strong. They got a lot of returning players that are proven talents and stuff playing against a lot of the schools that are in this conference. However, I do also want to give a shout out to Fresno State, though. If they're able to get some reliable, high-level quarterback play, and all of a sudden that offense is performing as well as that defense, Fresno State could be looking at not just a conference championship, but a college football playoff berth. So that's
Oh,
very exciting stuff to see. I'll be curious to see how these teams end up performing.
wait. So who's your pick? You didn't go with one. You went with two.
I think I am going to go with Boise State.
Okay.
I am going to
All
go
right.
with Boise State. That's my honorable mention is Fresno State.
Okay. I like that.
Boise State
the
is the heavy favorite to win the conference. They've got like a, maybe not heavy, but they've got like a 36% chance to win the conference.
Go with the
Versus
safe
the
pick. I
field.
get it.
So yeah.
Go with the safe pick. I get it.
Uh,
Wrap us up, Zach. Wrap
anyways,
us up, pal.
and yeah, with that, that'll wrap up our episode this week. Thank you so much as always for tuning in, everyone. Make sure like, review, rate, subscribe, follow, all that good stuff on YouTube and Spotify. As always, drop a comment or email us questions, comments, feedback at officialboomerandjunior@gmail.com. Check out our social media. We got Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube Shorts at Boomer and Junior. Yeah, make sure to check all of that out and see the extra bonus content that we post. Also, going to be linking. I am going to make a Boomer and Junior Community League, whatever, on the collegeffb.com website. Make sure you check that out. Sign up for that. It's super fun. Like I said, I already signed
Stay
up for it.
tuned.
It's a completely free site as well. I should mention there's no pay in any way, whatever. There's no ads as well. You know, it's just having fun for the love of the game.
Love that.
So gonna drop the link down for that. Make sure to join that and check it out. It's gonna be really exciting. I'm really hyped for this. And with that, have a great one, everyone.
Bye, guys. We'll see you next week.